Welcome to the Mind Solution podcast with Sarah Maud. The Mind Solution podcast is for leaders like you who are passionate about well-being in the workplace because you understand that a strong, resilient and happy workforce is the key to your organisation's success. The Mind Solution podcast is here to help you. So join us every week where we'll share with you powerful insights, strategies and know-how to ensure that your people and your organisation are truly thriving from the inside out. Hello and welcome, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Martyn Dawes, who has produced a book which I think every single manager out there needs to read, especially in the challenging times that we find ourselves in. And that book is The Overwhelmed Manager, which was originally aimed at the health and social care sector, but has gone on to be produced for any manager out there that's feeling overwhelmed. So thank you so much for joining us, Martyn. It's a real pleasure. And I think it would be wonderful for our listeners to understand a little bit about who you are and your background and how this book, The Overwhelmed Manager, came about. So over to you.
Well, I spent 20 years as a prison governor. So, that's widely known as one of the most stressful jobs you can have, and it certainly was. I worked in inner city prisons and it was very difficult, very challenging, and I suffered health issues and all the sorts of normal stuff you get from stress, that creeping stress that builds up and builds up. Eventually, I escaped and I went into social care. So I've been in social care for about 7 or 8 years. And obviously with COVID hitting, I saw quite a number of managers in the UK within this sector really start to suffer. And it was already a stressful job. It was already difficult. And coming from my coaching background and my understanding of the new psychologies that we talk about around 3 principles and other modalities, I thought there's something I could do to help it. I'm sure there is. And I wanted something simple. So my first step really is I just went on one of the Facebook groups, and it had about 3,500 members. And I thought, I just put up a quick poll and I said, how many people are suffering from overwhelm? How many people are taking medication because of it? How many people are having their relationships suffering because of the current workplace stress? And I thought I might get about 20 or 30 responses. I genuinely thought that. I had over 400 within a matter of a couple of days. Wow. And I thought, wow, there's something seriously wrong going on here. About 10% of those were actually self-medicating because of the issues that they felt. It was horrendous, and I was absolutely shocked. And I thought, I've got to do something about this. So I started writing a couple of daily blogs. So I put up a blog, and just inviting people very gently to look at life just slightly differently and giving them practical advice on what they can do day to day. And these started to get really good responses, and people were saying, I love this, can you do more, can you do more? So after I'd written about probably a dozen, I thought I could turn this into a book. I have written books before, but a long time ago. I thought I could probably turn this into a book. So I just put on a couple of groups, who would be interested in this book that I'm going to write. So I set my intention for myself straight away. And then I said, if you're interested, come and join me in this Facebook group, The Overwhelmed Manager. And it just went mad. I was shocked. I was sitting there. I remember sitting in bed and opening up this Overwhelmed Manager Facebook group, and literally it was ping, 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 ping. And people were joining it, and now probably about 8-9 months later, I've got nearly 1,000 members on there, plus my LinkedIn following. So I thought there's a definite need. We need to do something about this. So I wrote The Overwhelmed Manager specifically for this at that time, specifically for this audience, that to give them some emotional tools that they can use on a day-to-day basis, and then some practical tools as well. So the book really is set into sections. So the first sort of section is about why we get stressed, how it sort of works, the effect of the body, the sort of normal, what I would call run-of-the-mill stuff. Then I start talking about a new paradigm, a shift in the way we're thinking, the role of thought. And that's really blown people's minds. You know, the responses I'm getting from that are like, oh my God, I've never thought about it like this before. People are reading it and saying, this has changed everything for me, which is brilliant to read those reviews. And then finishing off with some practical advice and practical tips, you know, things like from how to have a difficult conversation to how to manage your time better, you know, and how to, well, just all sorts of different types of practical help. So I didn't want to just write a 3P book for, you know, a book around this new paradigm of thinking for people. I wanted it to give them some practical help and emotional help all at the same time. Otherwise, it may turn them off if they think, oh, it's just another self-help book. I didn't want it to be a self-help book. I wanted it to be a little bit of self-help, but with some practical advice as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about how people describe things as a stressful job. And, you know, I hear this all the time that, you know, this situation's stressful, my job's stressful, where I work is stressful. And you and I, Martyn, know that nothing is stressful. It's only ever based on our reaction, which, as you identify, is our thought in the moment. And I'm really curious about how people have been able to wrap their head around a job not actually being stressful, but how the stress is created from the inside out.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I've really taken a very low-key approach to it, because if I went in head first and said, you'll just, you know, it's just the way that you're thinking, I mean, it'll just turn people off. So you have to sort of almost drip feed them over a period of time. That's what I do in the book. I sort of drip feed the new paradigm. So we start off about, you know, a story that two of you are walking down the road and there's a dog comes out and one of you goes, oh, look, it's a lovely dog, and the other one runs away. And then we sort of had a little discussion about why is that the case? Why can one person love a dog and the other person not love a dog when the dog's the same dog? You know, what is going on? And I was talking to that. I was invited to a video podcast from somebody else in the field. And I was said to him this, you know, well, why is that the case? And it just blew his mind. I mean, he went silent for a few minutes. Well, I think I've broken him. And he was like looking at me going, and I could almost hear his cogs whirring as he was trying to think about, why is that the case? And it seems so simple, doesn't it? Yeah. And when you point it out, it is simple. And that's the beauty of it. So I suppose my approach is not to give them too much all at once, but try and drip feed a new paradigm throughout the book. You know, so it's a journey. The book is a journey, and it's written in such a way that you can pick it up and you will read 1 or 2 pages, and then you may need to put it down again. Yes. And have a think about it for a few days. And it's specifically written in that way.
Fantastic. And I love what you said there about actually they can just pick it up, they can just read a few chapters and they can put it down and they can let that, it's almost like letting that information percolate, because when it comes to the 3 principles, it is mind-blowing.
Yeah,
I know.
It really is.
I can say that as somebody who's worked as a coach and as a therapist in the field for 10 years. When I discovered the 3 principles, I thought, oh, okay. I wish I'd learnt this 10 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess for a lot of people that are listening to this, they might be sort of scratching their head and thinking, what are they talking about? So would you like to give us a little bit of a taste of what is the three principles?
Well, that's an easy question. That's a big question.
It is a big question.
The three principles is also really one principle, one big principle, but it's really about how we experience reality and who we are. And really, and when I'm coaching people, I say to them, there's two things that you need to know. One is where your experience is coming from, and the other one is who you truly are. And if you get those two things, then my job's done. But you can see massive shifts in people, even after one session, when they just start to change the way that they think. So really, the three principles talks about how we create our experience moment by moment. And that our feelings are not telling us anything about the outside world. They're just telling us what we're thinking. And those feelings are created through thought, and how thought creates our experience of reality. And there's not really much to do, because when you coach someone, they say, well, what can I do about that? How can I make this better? So there's nothing for you to do. It's just an understanding. If I'm going to show you how to ride a bike, I've shown you how to ride a bike. I don't need to re-show you how to ride a bike. You already know, So
I love that analogy.
Yeah. So it's great when they start to see it and they start to see their lives change. And I had one client the other day, she's just finished with me, and she said, when she started, I was given all of these things. This is how you will see your life change. And she was incredulous and thought, that's never going to happen. And at the end, she said, oh my goodness, that's exactly what's happened. People are acting differently to me all around me, and I haven't done anything. I said, well, you have. You've changed internally, so they have to respond to you differently. So three principles. It's almost like magic. That's how I see it. It is like magic, So you experience reality differently, and you don't get so caught up in the moment. And you can still have highs and lows. You can still experience. And sometimes you forget and sometimes you remember. But understanding that your feeling is not telling you anything about the outside world. It's only telling you what you're thinking about what's happening in the outside world is just the most incredible shift. And it's so simple, isn't it? It's so simple.
It is. And what I love about it, apart from the fact it is the truth, as you say, of who we really are. And once you really get it, and I think sometimes it takes us a little bit of time. So I love the fact that your book takes people on a journey, because I know certainly when I first came across the three principles, my intellect was going, but I don't understand. And it was trying to challenge it, especially based, I originally trained as a psychotherapist, and my mind was even battling to get it. But then once you get it and you really ground yourself in the three principles, it's, as you say, sometimes you remember and sometimes you forget, but the more that we remember, the more that it becomes how we experience life. And I love it when we take our leaders that we coach, for example, our executives that we coach through that journey, because so many times we hear people say, I want tips for how to manage stress. I want tips for how to manage anxiety. I want tips to help me. And I've always had this feeling of, well, I can give you as many tips in the world, but actually, what difference is that going to make? And wouldn't it be better that we just eliminated stress in the first place, and then you don't need all these tips?
Yeah, that's like saying, I want tips so I can understand how an apple falls from a tree. I want a tip so I can see why the wind blows. That's just what happens, isn't it? It just is. You don't need to do anything about it. And the other really big thing I love doing is showing people who they truly are and seeing them come alive. And then initially there can be some resistance to that because they've built up such a story of who they are over many years. But when you explain to someone, if you didn't have all the experience, if you didn't have your name, if you didn't have your family, your friends, your workplace, what would be left? What would be left? What would be left behind if you took away all of the words that you use to describe your surroundings? And that's a big shift. It's a big leap for them to get there. And really what's left is an awareness. That's all that's left. And that's the essence of who we are, just that awareness. And especially if you have like a female perhaps that you're coaching, and I said, imagine that you're holding your firstborn and looking into those eyes, and you get that feeling of overwhelming, overpowering love. That's who you are. Beautiful. That's it right there. There's nothing else. Everything else is completely made up. But that's who you are. Even your name is not yours.
Yeah. And it's fascinating, isn't it, when we help people to break free of these identities that they've created. And I loved what you said there, that people wear so many different hats, whether that's the hat of a manager as an identity, or a woman or a man or a mother or a father, or it's what are we in that moment, what hat are we wearing? And that's who we identify with, because who we are at work might be a very different person to who we are when we're having coffee with a friend. And bringing that awareness into the picture.
And of course, we get dressed with clothes every day, but we don't become
I hope so. Unless I'm in Barbados, maybe.
But then we don't become those clothes. So who we think we are is probably no different to wearing the clothes, and I could say to you, Sarah, tomorrow you're going to be a ballerina and you're going to wear Wellington boots every day.
You've obviously not seen my feet, Martyn.
And you're going to be called Esmeralda. And that's just as relevant. That is just as relevant and true as you being Sarah, the podcaster, and the person at Mind Solutions. It's just as true.
So for those people who have read the book and have been taken through that journey that you've taken them on, you said that the feedback has been incredible, and I'm really curious for our readers to understand actually what difference has it made to people's lives, those people that have read your book, Martyn.
We see managers at the moment in social care, which is what the first edition really was about. They were caught up in a horrendous situation. I mean, it's already a stressful job to start with. So they're managing you imagine it, you've got your most precious possession in the world, your mum, your child, your brother or sister, something like that. And you go and give it to someone else and say, I want you to look after this person for me. My most treasured possession is now your responsibility. So they've got that responsibility. Now you've got your expectations of what you want that care to look like. And very often the manager just can't deliver that. It's absolutely impossible. And then they've got the expectations of the person that they're caring for, the expectations of all the staff around them, and of the provider or the organization or company that they're working for, who obviously have to try and turn some sort of profit to try and keep the business going. And then a highly regulated industry, which is open to everybody to see and observe how well you're doing. You can go onto the inspectorate website and people can look at your home and your name is on it and they can read what they think about it. That's really, and that's a really stressful environment to be in. So for them just to understand that, not to take all that personally, not to make it about themselves. This is, at the end of the day, yes, it's an important job, but it's a job. It is not them. It's not who they are. They are doing a role. They are playing a role in that moment. So to understand, to take a step back and see it for what it is, and then understand that the stress that they're feeling is not coming from the workplace. It's not coming from the provider or the local inspectorate or relatives. It's coming from how they think about that. But you know what? Even we forget it. I mean, I was managing a really difficult home a few weeks back, and I forgot it over a period of about 3 weeks. I forgot it myself. You know.
Can I just clarify, Martyn, when you say home, just for our listeners, I'm assuming you mean a care home.
I do mean a care home, yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah,
I just wanted to double check.
Yeah. So I was managing this care home, and it was very, very difficult. They put me in there to try and turn it around. It was really stressful, and I forgot. In the moment, I forgot, and I got myself really wound up and really overwhelmed over a couple of weeks. And then one day, the local authority, the local inspectorate came in, and I just exploded them. And I was really quite unprofessional at that moment in time, just because I got caught up in my own thinking. And I stormed out of the building, and I sat in the car and said, right, that's it, I've had enough. And I sat in the car, and it was literally like a light bulb went on in my head. And I thought, what on earth am I doing sat in the car here? What the hell's going on? And I went back in and said, I'm really sorry about that. It's been a stressful few weeks. Please start again. You know? And that's the difference between 1 minute remembering and 1 minute forgetting.
Yeah.
And from that moment on, actually, I've been in the same workplace and it's been fine. I haven't been caught up in it again. It's been, nothing has changed. You know, it's still stressful. It's still the same environment, but I'm just seeing it differently because I remembered. So, and now I'm laughing, and you know, I'm trying to motivate staff around me, and you know, act in a way that is conducive to a fun working environment. Whereas before I wasn't, and that is the difference between remembering.
Yes, and I totally echo that, because despite everything that I know about the 3 principles, and as a therapist worked with hundreds, thousands, teach people globally, and do I sometimes trip myself up? Of course I do. Yeah. Of course I do. But the difference, as we say, is when you recognize and have that level of self-awareness and that consciousness that, oh, okay, I see what I'm doing. I'm just going down that old rabbit hole. Then the mind that is that self-correcting system just takes care of itself, and you're able to almost kind of step into the light, if that doesn't sound too woo-woo.
And that is that magic that I was talking about earlier. You know, there is nothing to do, and I went from highly stressed 1 minute to laughing the next, and it was literally a couple of minutes, because 1 minute I'd forgotten and the next minute I remembered, and there was nothing to do. And that is like magic.
It is. So is there anything that you would like to, if there's people in the care sector or prison sector, or any of that social sector that are listening to this, that are thinking, I'm really resonating with this? Because as you say, I mean, the prison service and the social care sector are a tough gig at the best of times. Is there anything that you would like to say or like to share with people that are in that sector that could really help them, apart from going and buying your book, of course?
Well, that's the first step. I think I would say to them is, there is nothing wrong with them. They are working perfectly as they are meant to operate. That they are just feeling their thinking, and that there is hope. You can have a paradigm shift and a new life virtually within a 45-minute conversation. You know, it is really that mind-blowing that it still staggers me that how people can change in front of you. So there is hope. They are perfect. They're whole. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just that they've got caught up in an illusion, and that where they think their experience is coming from is not really what's happening.
Yes.
And seeing that for the first time and really seeing it, because you have the intellectual conversation, but then you have that that heart to heart, that soul to soul connection. And when you feel it at that level, Sid Banks used to say, Sid Banks, obviously the original founder, so to speak, of Three Principles, he used to say, if you don't understand it, it doesn't matter. If you're feeling nice and calm and relaxed, that's enough. And that's what I say to my clients when I'm coaching. Don't worry about understanding my words, because it's beyond the words. It's a much deeper level than that. It's that level of, as I said earlier, that mother looking into her baby's eyes. How can you put that into words?
Yes.
It's at that sort of level, but there is hope. There is a different way of looking at life, and it is really, really simple. I think that's all I would say, really.
And I love that, because I know from experience of having worked with people, I think sometimes because of old paradigms, that people think that if they're experiencing challenges with their mental health, whether that's stress, whether it's anxiety, depression, for example, that they have to, be in therapy for years. And I know as a fellow coach, Martyn, we do work with people over a period of time, because we take them on, as you say, that journey. They can experience a profound insight that can change their minds forever in 45 minutes or even 10 minutes. But to really ground them in this understanding, as you say, we have to work beyond the intellect. We have to take them on a bit of a journey, but the amount that we can achieve in, say, a 3-month period is phenomenal, isn't it?
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. And when you see someone that you're coaching over this period of time, and you see them change each week, and they're coming to you and they're saying, this happened this week, and I didn't act in the way that I normally act. What's going on? Because I didn't try to do anything different. It's just that I acted differently and it was normal. I said, that's because you understand. When you understand, that's what happens. It becomes the natural reaction rather than an unnatural reaction, which is what you're currently doing.
Yes.
So I'm doing a talk at a big care show in a few weeks, and I have to talk to a lot of people who've never come across this before. And I was thinking this morning, how can I sort of get their attention very quickly? So I thought, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a piece of music that, when I was young, really divided the country. Some people hated it and some people liked it. And then I'm going to ask them, who hates this music? Who loves this music? And then I'm just going to say to them, how can you all have a different experience? If it's coming from the music, why are you all thinking different? Can someone explain that to me? And that's going to get their cogs whirring. They're going to sort of sit there and go, what the hell is this all about? And then we're going to sort of use that as a starting point and progress from there, because you need to show them at a very basic level that what they're feeling is not telling them anything from the outside world. And that's a really good, simple example to start with.
Beautiful. I love that. My mind's very curious. I'm looking forward to hearing what the piece of music was. I won't ask you to do a spoiler. Oh, can you?
I can tell you. I'm going to play a piece of music called "Oh Superman" by Laurie Anderson. Now, you have to
I don't know. You're going to have to sing that one to me.
I wouldn't sing it to you, but go onto your music provider, your streaming service, and just put it in, and you will either love it or hate it. Now, I happen to love it. My parents hated it. My son hates it. If I put it on in a car, he hates it. But I find it quite profound and soothing and relaxing. But I can understand how some people really hate it. But it can't be coming from the music. Otherwise, everybody would feel the same.
Yes. Yes. And I guess if we think about it, you can apply that fantastic example to movies that
absolutely
create that love-hate divide in people, or books, or a piece of poetry, or even food. How does some people love some foods and others not? And
yeah. I mean, after this podcast, some people are going to listen to this podcast, and some people will think, well, that was great, I really enjoyed that. And some people will think that was the biggest load of rubbish I've ever heard. And we'll think different things as well. But the podcast is the podcast. It's just the same. It's the same for everybody. But everyone's going to have a different experience of it. And that's an example of how we create our experience.
Yes.
Through thought.
Yes, absolutely. And what's the care show that you're doing the talk to, Martyn?
I think it's just called The Care Show. It's in England, in Birmingham NEC, and I'm on the 13th at 12:10. So I'm just going to go and prepare to blow a few people's minds.
Oh, you blow away, blow away.
Hopefully sell some books.
I'm sure, I'm absolutely sure. Which brings me to my last question for anybody that is listening to this, that you've whetted their appetite, you've stimulated their mind already. Where would they be able to get their hands on a copy of The Overwhelmed Manager, Martyn?
Well, the social care edition is on Kindle at the moment. That I haven't converted the new one yet to a Kindle book, so that won't be ready for another couple of weeks. You can get the new general version on PDF on my website, which is www.martyndawes.co.uk, Martyn with a Y and Dawes, Daws. Or if you Google The Overwhelmed Manager, I think that very often will take you to my website anyway. You can also order a paperback of the new general version, and if you're outside the UK, I would ask if you could order the PDF, because sorry, I don't know what happened there. I got
we lost you for a moment.
So if you're in the UK, you can order the paperback off my website as well. I haven't really done international postage yet on there.
Well, we've got a lot of listeners in the US, so you might about to explode onto the US market, Martyn.
Well,
but we will
so.
put the links within our podcast. But thank you so much for sharing that insight. I know, even as somebody that practices the 3 principles, my mind gets blown every time I have a conversation with somebody about it. So thank you for blowing my mind. I'm sure that you've blown many people's minds that are listening to this podcast, and we wish you all the very best with your book and with your care show home talk in a couple of weeks' time.
Brilliant. Thanks very much for having me, Sarah.
My pleasure. Bye-bye for now.
Bye then. Bye.